Hey, this is Lo with Soul Harbor, and you are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler, County Extension Agent, Family and Community Health. This is the Extension Hour. We talk about all kinds of things with Extension, our people, our programs, our partnerships, and I'm really excited about today because I've got an awesome guest with me. And so we've been actually trying to schedule this for quite some time, but really very busy schedule. We're going to get into a little bit more about that. But before we get too far, I do need to mention, so tomorrow actually, right, March 1st, no, that's Sunday. Is that Sunday? March 1st, 2020, the 5th annual 4-H Angels Rodeo is going to happen. And that is for our special needs youth who are interested in doing rodeo type events. So that'll be happening March 1st, 2020, 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. out at the fairgrounds. And if you need more information about that or you want to become a sponsor, you can call our office, 936-539-7825. Or also you can call the Holt Camps at 936-539-7823. Wait, that's my office number. That's not the Holt Camps number. Anyway, so, yeah. Happy Friday. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so we, I really want to get into the topic today because, like I said, we've been trying to schedule this for quite some time. So one of the things we do in Extension, my area, my main focus is family and community health. And, you know, when we talk about health, lots of times we just think about physical health. So we do a lot of nutrition kinds of things, you know, making sure you go to your doctor, preventing falls for older adults, that kind of stuff. But mental health is another really important part of health and wellness. And so sometimes that's one of the things that are overlooked. So Extension has been taking more of an active role in providing mental health classes. So, and for us, it's really preventative. Just to clarify, I mean, we're not necessarily mental health specialists. And my coworker, Mike McBride, was a mental health therapist previously, but most of the Extension agents are not mental health therapists or mental health specialists. We teach nutrition. We're not dietitians. We're not mental health professionals, but we can teach things like stress management, and we do a lot of classes along that lines. But one of the things that has happened recently that's really exciting here in Montgomery County is the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force. And through that connection, I was able to meet Sherry Burkhard. So Sherry, I start talking a lot. I want you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and about Mosaics of Mercy.
Yes, so it's been a lot of fun to get to know about Texas Ag Extension. One, because I have an Aggie, and two, because I just didn't know about all the great educational programs you guys offer. So that's been a benefit of this task force is learning and collaborating with lots of different things in the community. But who I am is I am a registered nurse that has a background in psychiatric nursing. And then I am also the executive director of Mosaics of Mercy. And we are a nonprofit that has been in existence. This is our 4th year. And our tagline is that we're a resource hub for mental well-being. So that looks several different ways, but the 3 pillars we talk about is we help people navigate resources. So that's connect to counselors, treatment centers, support groups. A lot of times when someone's struggling with a mental health issue, it's really hard to, number one, even sometimes know what you need. And then number 2, be able to find it. And so we help do that. And then we also do a lot of speaking and education in the community. I educate also through a podcast called Hope, Peace, Together. And then we have a mosaic making program, which is where we got our name, Mosaics of Mercy. And that's a faith-based program, experiential, where people come and do workshops, or we take it out in the community and talk about how brokenness can be used for beauty. And it's just a different perspective and also a tangible way to let people know they're not alone. So that's just in a nutshell, a little bit about what we do.
Yeah, and the whole show today is
Yes.
going to be about Mosaics of Mercy, about mental health, about where to go for resources, all those kinds of things. So we've got a lot of things to cover today with some really great information. So like I said, it's awesome to have you here. And I just have to say, so we visited at Mosaics of Mercy at your office a couple of months ago. I guess it's been a little while, and you gave me one of those mosaic hearts, and it is on my desk, and I love it. I love looking at it. It's a great symbol, like you said, beauty through brokenness, and so sometimes mental health, mental wellness is kind of misunderstood, and we think, oh, I'm broken and I can't be fixed.
Right.
But you guys provide hope, and so with your podcast, Hope Piece Together.
And that's part of the Mosaic workshops and just really everything we do. All of us that formed Mosaics have some personal story of our own with our own mental well-being and struggles around that. So I'm a person that I went to treatment when I was 15 years old for an eating disorder and depression and anxiety and a long list of things. And it was actually a nurse that made a really big impact in that journey for me. And as a result, I chose to become a nurse, but I'll have 30 years of recovery in May from I've never had another drink of alcohol and I've never returned to my eating disorder. So there's a lot of hope in that journey. And we all have pieces, it doesn't, sometimes it might be our mental health. Sometimes, like my son struggles with, he's hearing impaired. Well, so that's not about his mental health per se, but when something happens we don't expect, sometimes, we do have feelings about that. And if we don't handle those, it can affect our mental health. So that's what some of the things we talk about is just that it's natural for us all to have pieces in our life and them to be then come together. A lot of times those are the things that give us the passion for what we do.
Right. And I think another important thing is, sometimes we see other people and it seems like they've got it all together. And like when I first met you, I would have never imagined that you had the history that you had because you're very impressive, you're well put together, you're very eloquent. And so to think that you had struggled with all of that, it was sort of surprising for me. But I'm aware of, the fact that there are a lot of people who go through a lot of things. We could probably all share personal stories about the kinds of things that we've been through and overcoming. And when you don't see people in that situation, but you see them maybe later when they're recovered, it's easy to think, oh, they've got it. They don't know what it's like. But that's one of the great things I think about Mosaic of Mercy is that they're showing that maybe you don't all have it together. And even if it does get kind of broken apart, you can put it back together in a beautiful mosaic. So the other thing about Mosaics of Mercy is that, like I mentioned before, the connection with the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force. So I guess it was it was actually in progress for quite some time, but last May there was kind of a task force that came together to really start addressing that in our county. And so another thing, you can look around Montgomery County and think, oh, it's growing, it's affluent, there's people don't have problems here. But here and other places, you had mentioned that you've got some statistics about how mental health affects
Yes.
people.
So 1 in 5 are struggling with some kind of mental health issue. And what's interesting about the affluent communities is a lot of times we think those statistics would be less, that it would change. Maybe because we have the financial resources to seek help or something like that. But in reality, a lot of times those pressures actually push those statistics up. And regardless of what area we live in, it's an average of when someone starts showing signs of a struggle, it can be about 10 years usually before someone actually gets help. So that's for parents seeing something maybe going on in their kids or, an adult noticing a struggle and then we're really good at explaining things away or, maybe we don't know what to do, so we wait. And so those are just some of the numbers that really don't change regardless of where you live or, anything that, makes up the community.
Yes. So I want to, later on in the podcast, I want to talk a little bit more about kind of what you've just mentioned. how to recognize when you need help and also where to go for help and that kind of thing. But so let's back up just a little bit, though, and tell me a little bit more about how Mosaics of Mercy came into existence. You had mentioned that there's 5 of you that got together and all had experiences.
We did. So we actually didn't all know each other, and we were connected by someone in the community who called a lunch together and just said, I know all of you. You all have some overlap, and you don't realize it. She was actually a worship leader at a church, so she kind of had a platform and where she was able to network with a lot of people and also worked in the mental health field. And so when we got together and talked, we all really were seeing struggles in the community, either, personally, professionally, with people navigating resources. And then also, when knowing if we had had a personal struggle, how difficult it was for people to reach out to us and how isolating that felt as compared to one of our founders had been through breast cancer. And so the amount of people flocking around when she was struggling with that, and then the difference when her son started struggling with some alcohol issues, there was a vast difference in the support, just because people not knowing what to do. So we really felt like, okay, we want to step out and do something. And we're kind of like a mosaic. We all have different pieces that we brought to the table. So one was the artistic component. One, is more my nursing background and education and things around that. We have a grandmother who's raising her grandchild, and she's our business person. So everybody kind of brought different pieces. And that's, I think, one of the great things about Mosaics, because in the community, that helps us connect with a lot of different people.
Yeah. And so tell me about the area that you serve.
So we focus on Montgomery County. We do get calls from, like yesterday I got one from Baytown, but we typically focus on Montgomery County because that's where we know the resources right now the best. With the exception of usually if it involves going to alcohol or some kind of substance abuse treatment or eating disorder, you may be leaving the community, and we do go and visit facilities outside of our area so we know what there is available. So, and then really it's anyone who, needs help navigating. So that can be, someone from a church to a school to just all different, public health department. We get calls from just a wide variety.
Okay. So we are going to talk a little bit more about what your current plans are and also where you're going with Mosaics of Mercy, kind of what the hopes are for that organization, and a little bit more about what you guys do and what people can get from that. But we're going to take a little bit of a break. But we'll be back in just a few minutes. And this is the Extension Hour, where we talk about our people, our programs, our partnerships. And we're really excited to have Mosaics of Mercy with us today. And we'll be back in just a minute. Family and community health programs provide science-based education designed to improve the overall health and wellness of individuals, families, and communities. Developed by experts and delivered locally, topics include child and adult health, nutrition, child care, financial management, passenger and community safety, and building strong families, all encouraging lifelong health and well-being for every person, every family, and every community. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with the Lone Star Community Radio.
From the beginning, the main purpose of the Cooperative Extension Service has been to change human behavior by teaching people how to apply the results of scientific research. By utilizing a holistic, multi-level approach, Extension family and community health programs encourage health and well-being for everyone. Addressing values, concerns, and needs with reliable science-based information, Extension programs help people lead healthier lives. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Hey guys, this is Connor.
This is Dick.
This is Chris.
And we're with the Ticket Stub Podcast every Thursday live at noon on 104.5 and 106.1 FM in the Conroe area. Also, anytime at irlonestar.com. You go to irlonestar.com/TTS. You can find all of our social media.
And don't forget, we give away 2 tickets to the Grand Theater on every show.
If you like movies and you like complaining or celebrating anything that has to do with the silver screen, check out the Ticket Stub Podcast and join us every Thursday at noon o'clock on Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler, County Extension Agent, Family and Community Health. I mentioned before we talk about health, and today we're talking about mental health and wellness. And so this is an interesting segue. So one of the things that helps people with mental health is gardening. People like to garden.
Yes.
And we have a awesome Master Gardener Association here in Montgomery County, and they do a class on Saturdays. So once a month on a Saturday, they will do these classes that they offer. So it's Saturday morning. One is 8 to 10, and the other one's 10:30 to 12:30. One coming up next, March 14th, is must do, should do, and don't do in your garden. You know, so to make your garden grow well. And then the second session will be on attracting bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. And then on March 28th, we'll have our spring plant sale. So that's when people can come actually buy some plants. Some of them have been grown right there in the greenhouse and on the grounds there at the Extension office. And some of them are procured from other places, but they are all things that we know will grow well here in Montgomery County. So that can be helpful for your mental health to make sure that it actually grows, because it can be frustrating when it doesn't grow. And I'm, talking about mental health lightly, kind of sort of making jokes, but it really is a pretty serious topic. So Mosaics of Mercy is one of those organizations, or you guys are really actually a very unique organization. I say one of those, but there's not a whole lot like you guys, is there?
No, we really haven't found anything exactly like us. Mm-hmm. We've been kind of researching that and looking around the United States. I think that there's different versions of maybe helping people navigate resources or something like that, but we haven't found anything quite like our model.
Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit more. So what are your current plans for Mosaics of Mercy? What do you do?
Well, around resources, one of the things that we're doing is, as we've grown and gotten, take more calls and things like that. And also all the resources that we give are resources that we've either toured or, we had a phone interview with. We have a process that we follow we really want to have a relationship with those resources that we're giving, because that helps us explain it to the people who are calling and helps them feel more comfortable. And then it also, allows us to navigate, because we have that relationship with the providers. And so as we've gotten more and more, we need a better way to, keep a system of that. So we have been working actually with the task force in collaboration with them about looking for a database and a way that not only we can keep track of those resources internally, but really make that more accessible to the community. Because oftentimes, doctors' offices or, other community organizations have the same struggle with navigating resources as individuals do. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of work to stay on top of, who's taking insurance, or what support groups are being offered, because those kinds of things rotate a lot. And so being able to have one central place that keeps that information updated will then help the entire community be able to better help everyone navigate. And so that's one of the projects we're working on, is getting funding for that database.
Mm-hmm. 'Cause it's not cheap, right?
Yeah, it's not cheap. And it is a lot of work just to maintain and keep those resources up to date.
Because they can change a lot.
They change a lot. I mean, if you think about it, like the individual counselors, they'll do support groups that run, about 6 weeks, and then that stops, and then maybe later on they'll do something else. So you're constantly trying to keep up to date on, well, what is that? And then being able to plug people into it. So being able to have a system that keeps everybody up to date, and then so everybody's then not calling all the same, counselors too, and spending time they could be spending with patients trying to get that information. So,
right.
So those are that's the big thing we're working on in the resource department. And then also, getting other, basically we say navigators, people that can, help take those calls and help people navigate. So that's it on the resource side. And then on the podcast side, we're very thankful to get a grant from Montgomery County Community Foundation to help us with the initial part of this year in moving our podcast to weekly. And so what we do is I'll interview a mental health professional on a topic, and then the next week I'll share a story of hope, interview someone with their own personal story of hope, because we know both things are important.
Yeah.
It's important to have the, more educational type information, like we talked about, looking for signs and things like that, but then it also is encouraging to hear how people actually navigated that issue for themselves.
Right. And I think the idea of a podcast is excellent. One of the things about mental health is it can be difficult to talk about. It's very deeply personal, and that experience, again, is a very personal experience. And so you may not want to just go talk to somebody in person or tell somebody, even if you know them well. Sometimes it can be something that's difficult to talk about. So you could listen to a podcast in the privacy of your own home or car or wherever
Right.
it is that you listen, and like you said, get good information, but then also hear about people who have also been through those same types of experiences and see how they got through it and helped it. So I think that's a great thing that you guys are doing.
Well, and I think that audience-wise, it's definitely individuals who may have a struggle, but it's really good for anyone because we all know somebody.
Oh, yeah.
In our lives, or never know when we're going to encounter something or our children are going to encounter something. So it helps us be prepared to navigate that. But what we've also found is physicians and even other counselors in the community may not know what the other counselors have going on in their practice. Like I've, talked to them and they're like, oh, I didn't know she did that. So it's a great way too for the professional side to really know in a deeper level what's going on in the community and what they could, be offering and connecting people to.
Yeah. So again, that podcast is called Hope Pieced Together.
Yes.
And how do people find that?
So they can find that on our website, mosaicsofmercy.com, or iTunes, Google Play, any major podcast player. And then they can subscribe, and then that gives you automatic updates. They come out on Tuesday mornings, usually at 5 a.m. And then I try also on social media, then we will try to do resources at the end of the week, usually on Fridays, that correlate with the podcast. We have resources available on our website, but it's just another way to highlight things maybe specific to whatever that topic is of the week.
All right. So give us an example, like what was the most recent one that you guys did?
So the last 2 weeks have been on sex and pornography addiction. And so we had a counselor that specializes in that, and then actually a couple who told their story, and they have a local support group, so they shared their story about that. But we've had eating disorders, we've had addiction issues, we have, next week is perfectionism and anxiety. We've had counselors that are, talking about navigating parenting. We have, there have been all sorts of, Judge Mack talked about the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force in the community. And so there's all sorts of different topics that really, and all of them, even I know when I say the sex and pornography addiction, but even that one, they talked about, just healthy sexuality and talking to your kids and navigating that as church members and all sorts of different things. So it, really still applies to anybody, even if they don't have that struggle.
Right. So you don't have to, whatever
Right.
the topic is, that doesn't necessarily have to speak to you directly. But like you said, we all know somebody, 1 in 5
Yes.
are affected by mental illness. So there's lots of, very broad applicability for all of those. And as you mentioned, it's podcast, so you can listen to it whenever, and there's lots of platforms to do that. It's kind of like our extension hour. We talk about good things too, but it is, we're podcast as well, so you can listen back on YouTube and all of those types of things. So you also mentioned that you guys have some great plans in the works.
So we have the plans as far as the resources. One of the other things we've been we really hope to work on this year is getting our hearts out into the community so that they're recognized. We've had stories of people seeing them in different businesses and things like that and being reminded of, oh, I can actually call them for help. Like one person in particular was on her way to get her nails done and she got a call from her college-age daughter, and her daughter was struggling, and immediately as a parent usually start to panic anytime your child's in a struggle. That's just usually kind of a lot of us, that's her automatic reaction as a mom. And so she walked into the nail salon and saw all that heart sitting there and was like, oh wait, I have someone I can call that can help. And actually the daughter was in college somewhere else, but we were, able to, through some of our connections, able to help that mom navigate and get her daughter where she needed to be. And so that really taught us the importance of, having that symbol out in the community, reminding people, okay, you're not alone and there is a place to call, to help you walk this out.
And just to clarify, I love that you said, get our hearts out in the community.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you mean literally the mosaic?
The mosaic hearts.
Yes. But no, I mean, I think that that's a lot of what you're doing just with your organization too, metaphorically putting your heart out into the community, because that's really what we need. Our society can use a lot more heart and love in the community for sure. Okay, so you guys also do the workshops. So the hearts come from those workshops.
So the hearts come from the workshops, and the workshops are available. Our physical location is in Magnolia, or the back of the Woodlands at like 2978 and 1488. And so we have 3 workshops throughout the month that are just open for people to sign up on our website. And there's one during the week, one on a weeknight, and then one on a Saturday throughout the month. And then the other ones usually are events that people are, calling and scheduling where they're bringing a whole group together. And that's either at our location or we, go out, like we were doing the Conroe ISD mentor program yesterday. So we'll go out into the community and do those workshops as well. But anybody who wants to experience them when they come to us on those regular times, it's just available at a donation. We never want, price to be an issue. And so they get to start a heart, finish a heart someone else has made, and take a heart, because part of the process is, of healing for anyone is sharing their own story with someone else. And so that's part of the healing process, is sharing your story, and then someone receiving that heart knowing someone, provided that for them. And so it's that continuous loop of community, which is what we're really trying to help build.
Yeah. And so if people are interested in these workshops, they can find out about it on your website.
Mosaicsofmercy.com. Yes.
And then also your Facebook page.
So Facebook page and Instagram, we regularly post. Either we do stories of hope on there, we share our podcasts, we post about our Mosaic workshops, and we'll also do resources in the community.
I discovered Mosaics of Mercy on Facebook, and I've been liking lots of stuff. And I recently got a notification that I'm one of your top fans, and I could get a badge.
Oh,
so I know.
Nice.
Yeah, very, very cool. So, because like I said, I do think that you guys are doing great work, and so it's important that people know that that is one of the resources that we have here in Montgomery County. Montgomery County is growing so fast, changing so fast. I can imagine that it's really difficult to keep up with all of those resources and all the changes that happen with that.
Yes, there's a lot. I mean, we do have a lot of great resources, all the way from, we have psychiatric hospitals, we have treatment centers for addiction treatment, we have counselors, and a lot of support groups, but sometimes it's just hard to find them if you don't know exactly what you're looking for.
Right.
So.
Right. And if you are the one in need, life can be overwhelming at that point too, and it's difficult to even.
Well, it's hard to make a decision, and I think that when you get on the internet, there is a lot of that information out there, but what happens is kind of what I call analysis paralysis in my life. Like you start looking at all these things on the internet, and then you're like, well, how do I know which one is the right one? And, it just gets really overwhelming. And so what we do is we will say you're looking for someone's looking for a counselor, then we will identify 3 that are taking patients. If, maybe it's a certain insurance someone's wanting to use, or, dealing with, your specific issue. And we know that that's their area of specialty. So we'll help narrow that down to 3 and then, encourage you to call and ask questions yourself to find out which of those 3 is the right fit. So, and then if none of those work, to call us back. But we never want to say, oh, well, we know what's best, because everybody's unique, and what speaks to one person may not another, but we try to help simplify it and then reduce those barriers of calling and hearing, well, no, I'm not, taking patients, or those kinds of things that really prevent people from getting the help they need.
Yeah. And I would think that is one of the benefits of you, the founders, all being through those types of situations, because, if you haven't been through that, you may not realize how important that really is.
Yeah, it definitely helps to have the personal piece of it, and so to be able to speak to that. And I think that that's, been something maybe unique about me as a nurse, is just that, not only do I have the professional knowledge, it's something that I've walked out both myself and as a parent. And actually, at the end of March, I'll give a plug to a conference. It's called the Equip Conference at Stonebridge Church, and it's a 2-day conference. I believe it's March 28th and 29th, but it's at the end of March. And both my husband and I are speaking together on the Friday night, talking about, as parents, and then both of us navigating our own personal mental health journey, and then what that also looks like when you have a child who's struggling. And then on Saturday, I'll be talking about navigating mental health resources for the family, and also speaking on a panel. But there's some great counselors, really good information available at that conference.
We're going to look up the information, because I know that's what's been shared with me as well. So we will look that up, and we will let everybody know as soon as we come back. So that's a good hook to come back after the break.
Awesome.
We're also going to talk a little bit more about, how to identify when someone is in crisis and what to do. So we're going to be back in just a few minutes. You are listening to the Extension Hour right here on Lone Star Radio, and we'll be back.
You're going to need me.
You're going to need us.
All of us.
You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food.
You're going to need our determination, our compassion.
You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring.
And we promise we'll be there when you need us.
Today, 4-H is growing the next generation of leaders.
Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question, comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station on irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids are removed from their home because of abuse and neglect, and we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CasaSpeaksForKids.com. That's CasaSpeaksForKids.com.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
And welcome back to the Extension Hour. We're talking with Sherry Burkhard of Mosaics of Mercy. And before we went to the break, you had mentioned this awesome conference that's coming up at Stonebridge Church. And so there was a little bit of a question about the date. So it's called Equip. EQUIP. So it is a conference for parents, shedding light on anxiety and depression, and that is scheduled for March 27th and 28th, 2020. There is a charge for that, so the cost per ticket is $40, but that includes all large group sessions, breakout session, lunch provided. Tickets are available at gostonebridge.com/equip conference. So that's Stonebridge Church. So go Stonebridge, STONEBRIDGE.com. So if you want to find out more information about that and register, that sounds like it's going to be a very helpful and useful conference there. Because parenting is hard.
Yes, parenting is hard.
Sometimes life is hard, and I use humor as a deflection, right? So when I'm like stressed or whatever, and I have a very dry sense of humor, and so sometimes it doesn't come off very good. So sometimes I'll just make jokes, blah, 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 blah. But, it is, it's a serious thing, and it is a real thing. And it's just people may sometimes be wondering, do I need some help, or does someone that I love need help? I mean, how do you know when you get to the point? And then this is a question that comes up, I think often for a lot of people. How do you know when you're to the point where you need intervention, or you need help, or you need to take it one step further? Like, can we just talk a little bit about that?
Yes.
That's what you do, right?
So, it can be different for there's so many different mental health situations, but I think one of the things, and it was actually a 16-year-old who said it to me that other day when she was explaining how she told her friends that she was going to counseling, and they asked her why. Like, why are you going to counseling? And she's like, because it helps with life. And, I think that was a good answer. I mean, the time to go is when you're questioning, do I need to go to counseling? Because I think our tendency, like the statistic I said earlier, is to wait, to think, oh, no, it'll get better. Oh, I've got this, or, whatever it is, those, things that we tell ourselves, and end up waiting 10 years. And at that point, we wait until there's a crisis. When if maybe we would have gotten the tools earlier, then, that would have helped. And I think that I took call in the emergency room at Texas Children's for a little while. And one of the things that I would do when I talk to the kids would be that, if they come in and they're struggling with something, it may not be a mental illness. It may just be that you don't have the tools for whatever that situation is. And so when we find ourselves, as adults, or maybe even watching, our kids and thinking, I really don't know how to handle this situation, I mean, that's a good time to go and get counseling. Because, if we wait until that moment where our child is to the point where they're saying, I can't take it anymore, I'm not going to, and they're considering maybe harming themselves, which is what the task force is focusing on, is how to reduce that suicide rate. A lot of times then that's going to be so much more of a drastic intervention that it would have been if you would have gone, at those first signs of, hey, I really don't know how to navigate this. So that's one of the signs. I mean, other things we'll start to see are people withdrawing from, friends, withdrawing from activities that they, used to get pleasure in. Maybe a change in appetite. Sometimes for some people that may be eating way more than usual to stuff the feelings. And then for some people that's really losing their appetite and maybe starting to lean, like in my experience, towards an eating disorder. Usually with that, you'll also start to hear a lot of signs of people talking, about their body and their body image, and just making a lot of comments around that, or getting really strict with their food. And then some of the other things may be people just continually talking about, feeling hopeless or discouraged. Those are always definitely signs that you want to pay attention to. And anytime anyone, mentions that they're thinking, they don't want to live anymore, or they're, they don't want part of their story to go on anymore, then that's something to take seriously. I know that one of the things that I often hear, maybe when I'm speaking to different groups, is, well, how do you know that that's not just a cry for attention? Mm-hmm. Well, it's a cry for attention, and you need attention. They need attention, regardless of if they're serious or not. You just don't want to take that chance. And so the best thing to do, is to go ahead and pursue help. And there are different ways to do that in a crisis. I will say that Mosaics of Mercy isn't your crisis call number. Like, we are the one that can help you navigate counselors and things like that, but because we don't operate 24 hours a day, and we're not there on the weekend, we're not the one you would call in a crisis. That, you are going to want to pick up your phone and call 911 or call the, crisis hotline. or go to your emergency room. But the psychiatric hospitals in the area, they will, if you go there, they will do a free assessment. If you're concerned about, something concerned about your child, concerned about a family member, you can go just for an assessment for them to, someone else to put eyes on that situation and see what they think. And then there's also, that happens, in our emergency rooms, they have mental health people that will come in and do an assessment, not just your emergency room staff, but usually they have some kind of team that is organized to do that and, help figure out maybe what next steps would be. So there's lots of different options in that, but I think the important thing is to take a step and to do something. So, I just covered a whole lot of different symptoms, but I think, usually, like if you're dealing with a child, you start as a parent, you kind of start to get that inner knowing that, okay, something's off. And so that's a time to start asking questions. But one of the things that we've learned in our family is it's important to be having those conversations all along, because then the kids are comfortable having it when you need to have it. So if you've never talked about feelings or never talked about a struggle before, to suddenly talk about it when there is a big one may not be something they easily know how to do. But if it's something we're routinely doing when we sit down and talk about our day and say maybe feelings we had or things going on, it's going to be easier for them to feel comfortable coming. Right. Because a lot of times kids feel really worried about disappointing their parents. And, that's a frequent thing we'll hear is, well, I didn't want to bother them. I didn't want to disappoint them. And that's because, that's not something that's normally, maybe they don't hear their parents voicing, hey, I had a rough day, or, so they don't want to be the one in the family to, do that, and different things like that.
And when you're talking about parenting, there's a lot of adults that can struggle with the way they were brought up, and maybe there were some dysfunctional things, or maybe it just was not, we just didn't talk about those kinds of things. And so they think that when they parent their children, they have to do the same thing. They don't always know that they can kind of change and talk about feelings. And so sometimes that can be difficult as well. So, what would you say to a parent who's thinking, oh, I don't want to show that I need to be the strong one. I don't want to, you have advice for that?
Well, I think, there's even our family, which one of the things that one of my children says about our family is that we were playing we play that sometimes that question game at dinner. You can buy those boxes of different questions, and we were doing that. And it said, what's one thing that's, unique about your family? And my child was like, we know more about mental health than anybody. And so, but, there are different games out there. So even if you don't want to do it, like maybe you don't feel comfortable talking about how do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel? So maybe, you find different games or things like that. There's something called iGrok, GROK, that's like different cards, but it's things that you can play where you can just talk about feelings in a different, but it's not quite so serious of sitting down quizzing each other, but to just get your kids, get you used to, being able to even identify, I kind of feel sad today, or things like that.
Yeah. So emotional intelligence is a huge thing everywhere. Even so, we're talking about families, and people can kind of think, oh, emotional intelligence is only for that like touchy-feely stuff. But even like in business, emotional intelligence is one of those skills that a lot of employers are looking for, because who do you work with? People. Yes, and people have feelings, even if they don't like to express that they have feelings or whatever. So just kind of working through that can be a challenge. So people that are accustomed to expressing their feelings, but for those that are not accustomed to doing that, it's there's a lot of benefits to doing that.
Yes, it helps in the workplace for sure. And, I think the thing about expressing feelings and identifying that is it leaves us all feeling vulnerable and exposed. And so that's a lot of times why we don't want to do that. But at the same time, those tools are the ones that really help us navigate relationships. And in the workplace, we have usually have to work with people unless we're working alone for some reason at home.
Right.
So learning, it can help us as adults, but it then also us modeling that helps our kids know how to do that as well.
Yeah. And, it's easy to say. Sometimes it can be more difficult to do. And, sometimes it's more difficult than others. And all of that's just normal.
Right.
Because I think another thing that happens is we feel abnormal if it's something that's uncomfortable. We think, oh, this is not like it should be. But it probably should be. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those kinds of things and some last pieces of advice from Sherry, the nurse, and from Mosaics of Mercy. And we'll also, I got to talk about Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force and the awesome Community Help Expo that we have coming up soon. But we're going to take another little break, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. So stay tuned because we've got more good stuff. Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service is all about extending knowledge and providing solutions. We do that by using science-based information to create high-quality and relevant education for the people of Texas. More importantly, this outstanding education is delivered locally, right here in our county. We encourage lasting and effective change that helps our communities and our county thrive. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
A Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Welcome back to the Extension Hour. I'm Amy Ressler. We talk about our people, our programs, our partnerships, and today we've got Sherry Burkhard with us of Mosaics of Mercy, and we've been talking about the great work that they're doing. And one of the ways that I came to know Sherry is through a partnership, and that partnership actually started with Justice of the Peace, Judge Mack. Kind of got tired of seeing suicides, of presiding over suicides, and he said, we've got to do something about this. And it's really interesting to hear him describe how it happened. And he was talking to one group, and they said, yeah, we think we need to do something about this too. And then somebody else did. And it was just like kind of the synergy that was created. So let's do something to help prevent this in our community. And then when we talk about suicide, suicide doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is related to behavioral health and the things we do and the way we think and how just life affects us, affects our behavioral health. And so they created the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force. And that group has been meeting. There's like 14 work groups. So almost anything that's related to behavioral health and suicide prevention, there's a work group that's looking at that and thinking about how that can be addressed in our community. So you work on the resources and implementation work group, and I've been helping with the Building Stronger Communities work group. And so that one's kind of prevention and what can we do before. And some of the other work groups are also looking at that. But there's pediatrics, there's crisis intervention, there's addiction, there's military veterans, first responders. There's all kinds. So like I said, 14 different ones, and I can't think of them all now. But so in May is coming up 1 year that task force was formed, or like just kind of the official kickoff, because there was plenty of stuff that happened before that. So this May in 2020, they wanted to do something to mark that anniversary. So AgriLife also has some money through the Rebuild Texas. So as a result of Hurricane Harvey, there was some money for Rebuild Texas, and some of that was focused at rebuilding infrastructure, but also looking at how those kinds of disasters affect people and their mental health. And so there was some money that was available to do some type of awareness conference. And so AgriLife approached the Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention Task Force to see if they wanted to do some type of event. And they said, we've already got this event planned. Let's do it together. So we have an event planned for May 19th. And we are calling that the Community Help Expo, Navigating Behavioral Health and Suicide Prevention. So it will be a lot about how to kind of what we're talking about today, but just how to navigate all of that kind of type of information. So it's going to be 4:30 to 8:30. We'll have some breakout sessions to begin with. We'll also have a mental health first aid training that'll happen earlier that day. Then some breakout sessions, and then it's really exciting. We've got a keynote speaker that's scheduled, and that's Kevin Hines, and he is one of the few people who have survived jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And he has a very powerful story. It's something that you said earlier about sometimes people wonder, well, are they just doing this to get attention? And yes, people need attention. And part of his story, he talks about how if someone had just stopped him or had just said something to him, like, dude, are you okay? That he might have rethought what he was doing. So I'm not.
He actually thought that in his mind. I've heard Kevin speak a few times, but he talks about he had said, I'm going to get on this bus and go to the Golden Gate Bridge, and if someone says, hey, are you okay, I won't do it. Mm-hmm. And he sat on the bus crying, and nobody asked him. Someone even asked him to take their picture, and but didn't say, are you okay? Yeah. So that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's a very powerful story. Don't want to give away all of his. You need to come hear him. So that'll be at the Lone Star Convention Center, May 19th. Starts at 4:30 or earlier, actually, for the mental health first aid, and then keynote will be at 6:30. So come on out to that. We'll have some more information in future shows. So we've been talking a lot about people struggling, mental health, mental wellness, mental illness. What are some last pieces of advice that you have? Like you said, 30 years sober?
Yep. So I'll have 30 years in May. And I think that one of the biggest things that a lot of what I've learned has been through walking that journey and being part of 12-step programs. And I've had a lot of experience in my personal life navigating with people who are struggling. And, I think one of the biggest things that prevents people from reaching out to others is because they feel like they have to fix it. And so I think that a lot of times we're scared to say, are you okay? Because what is that going to mean then for us when we don't really know what to do? And so I think that part of being able to ask that question to your friends as your loved one and your loved ones is knowing, okay, I don't have to fix this myself. Yes, I might need to, make that call to, someone else for help, but that's, I don't have to be the one to fix it for this person. And so I think that I guess that's one of the things that I just, want to end with today is just that importance of if you, have any feeling that someone around you is struggling, just how much help it is to reach out to them and say, hey, are you okay? You need a friend? Would you like to go to coffee? Or one of the reasons for the Mosaic Hearts is because, hey, you could give someone a heart. Maybe you don't feel comfortable opening up that conversation, but you're could drop a card off with that heart on their front porch and, just let them know, hey, I know, you've got a lot going on. I just want you to know you're not alone. Things like that maybe if that's your comfort zone, then do that. A lot of times they call mental health struggles the no casserole illness because people don't drop off things. Like they feel uncomfortable, and they just don't really maybe know what to say. And so that was really one of our reasons behind the Hearts, was to give people just something they could do, and maybe even just drop in the mail if that's what they've, but just to be able to do something.
Yeah, because it's like you mentioned, it's not just, you don't flip a switch that all of a sudden you're okay or all of a sudden you're not okay. It's really a process, and so just taking it kind of one step at a time can make a really big difference, and probably a bigger difference than you might realize at first.
Yes.
All right, so Sherry, if someone wants to find out more about Mosaics of Mercy, tell us again how to get a hold of you.
So you can go to our website, mosaicsofmercy.com, and then also you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And the website gives you the option. It has our phone number, but then also gives the option if you just want to email us, you can do that as well.
All right. And then, of course, you can always call the Extension office, 936-539-7825. Sherry, thank you so much for being with us here today. I think that we've learned a lot, and I'm very, very honored to have you here. I think you guys are doing great work.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with the Extension Hour. Thanks. Take care.